I think a lot of people, when we talk about front lines, they think of doctors at big hospitals and that image of the nurse or the doctor, but they forget as these inmates are being exposed, the people who are there caring for them or guarding them are exposed as well. Do you think having that conversation makes people see the humanity more in this?
Yeah, I think that's a really important part of this conversation for a couple of reasons. And this is why Reform pulled together the SAFER plan. Safer prisons and jails equals safer communities. Because there are people coming in and out of our prisons and jails all across the country every single day. You've got corrections staff, you've got administrative staff, you've got the medical staff who are coming in and potentially exposed to COVID-19, and then coming home to their families, coming home to their communities. So I think that's a really important piece of this, because our jails and prisons could essentially turn into accelerators for the virus, because there is this influx of people every single day.
We know the numbers, they are staggering. The disproportionate number of Black and brown and people who are poor, who are behind bars for long periods of time, that we now look back in reflection as, again, I keep using this word, as an inhumane punishment for some of the crimes they are accused of. And now, in addition to that, the clock is ticking as some of these nonviolent individuals are behind bars, afraid they will now contract COVID-19.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, part of what's really sad in this moment is that there are so many people inside of the prisons and jails, and so many of those facilities are over capacity, that even the people who end up in there for something extremely minor, like a technical violation of probation because they missed an appointment with a probation officer, their sentence of being in there for a few months might actually be a death sentence right now with COVID.
And that's not an exaggeration. I mean, when you say that, I know people will think, oh my gosh, this is her agenda. This is what they do, meaning those who are pushing for criminal justice reform. But by the numbers, 2.2 million Americans behind bars, another 4.5 million on parole or probation. We saw the case in New York, Khalif Broader, a kid who couldn't make bail, who ultimately went on to be tortured at Rikers Island and then took his own life. A lot of these people simply can't also make bail and are behind bars.
Yeah, there are a lot of people in there who have not even been convicted of a crime at this point. They haven't had their day in court to prove their innocence. There's a lot of people who are in there for technical violations. As I said, that's somebody who didn't even commit a crime to get in there. They missed an appointment, or they couldn't pay a restitution payment. Maybe they left the jurisdiction. We had one lady who went out walking her dog one night, and she walked past where she was allowed to. She was on an ankle monitor. Next thing she knows, she gets picked up and taken back to prison. So should she be in there when there's a crisis like this going on? Is it really a public safety risk to let her come home? This is the sad reality of our justice system, and I've seen it time and time again. I get tons of letters, tons of emails from people who they have great cases. Their loved one is in prison and would serve no public safety risk, but they just don't have anybody to advocate for them. And these are folks who are reaching out in a place of desperation, wondering if their loved one is going to die in prison, and just hoping somebody will hear them and help them out. I myself decided to start advocating on one case a few weeks ago. It literally took 15 different calls and getting a Congress member involved, and to be able to get a person who is very eligible for home confinement onto a home confinement release list. And most people just don't have that kind of support. It's heartbreaking.
And it's a double-edged sword, because though that is the case, that person doesn't have that kind of support. You have names like Jay-Z, Meek Mill, Kim Kardashian West, who are on your speed dial, who can help get their Twitter followers or social media followers rallied up and push a case. I want to pick up real quick before I let you go on the masks. I know that, as you pointed out, 100,000 masks were distributed. I went on social media, read some of the comments, and people would say, well, you should be giving that to first responders. You should be giving those masks to our nurses and doctors. What's your response to that?
Again, if we don't address this virus spreading through the prisons and jails, it's going to become an accelerator for the pandemic. You see in Rikers Island, it's transmitting 7 times the rate it is out here in the free world. Again, there's people coming in and out. There's churn in and out of that jail. Do you want somebody who got sick while in jail or sick while in working jail coming back out into your community and potentially infecting you? No, nobody does. So we have to make sure that we're protecting all Americans from this virus.